Hello everyone, the Nerdy Steve here, and today we will be featuring White Blue Control in Explorer. The link to the list is in the description below. I'm going to talk about the general plan of the deck, and then we'll play a couple of games, so let's go. So, control decks in this one specifically, what we want to do is use our counter magic and removal early on in the game. So we want Portable Hole, March of the Otherworldly Light as removal with Fateful Absence. And then we also have Absorb, Censor, and Dovin Veto to counter other cards our opponent might cast. And then we want to eventually resolve a Teferi hero of Dominaria or the Wandering Emperor to gain a lot of incremental advantage over time, where we are still trading one for one with our counter magic and removal, but because we're adding threats every turn, we'll eventually overwhelm our opponent and beat them. And that's kind of what we want to do. So we want to control the early game with our interactive spells, and then when we get to the late game, we want to take advantage of our more powerful spells and then, kill our opponent that way. One of the new cards in the Explorer Anthology that was released, which is a very, very important card for the deck, is Supreme Verdict, which is a 4-mana card that destroys all creatures and can't be countered. So, one of the reasons why, there are two reasons why this is very, very important. The first is our other previous alternatives were Depopulate and Something Shatters the Sky, where they were removal spells that wipe the entire board, but they could sometimes draw your opponent's cards. And with our deck, where we want to trade one for one, if you do a board wipe and you let your opponent draw a card, that is very, very, very bad for you. And so this not ever allowing your opponent to draw cards is really, really great and really in line with this deck and makes it that much more powerful. But additionally, mono blue and there are other counterspell decks are in Explorer, and they're actually fairly good. And being able to destroy all creatures and have it not be countered by a Spell Pierce or a Mausoleum Wanderer or any of the other things that can counter your spells is so important. So being able to go, okay, on our fourth turn, we can just board wipe, not having to worry about anything, is just really, really, really good. And so Supreme Verdict kind of just makes this deck put. It was kind of like the final missing piece. This deck had a little bit of everything already, but Supreme Verdict kind of just cements, okay, we have this card, we're good to go. But that's the basic idea of the deck. It's fairly simple in theory, but in application, trying to judge what you want to remove, what you want to counter, can be very, very hard. So let's see if we can do that. We have... This is a decent hand. We have Shark Typhoon to, draw more cards and make a 1-1. We have 1-drop. Or early interaction if we need it. I'm going to do that tapped. And then maybe untapped Hallowed Fountain. Epicure. Okay. Yeah, untapped here, and then we'll see what's going on. We would love if our opponent tapped out here. I doubt they will, but... We'll do that here because we want Wandering Emperor to be able to cast on the 4th turn. So right now we're just kind of playing draw go with our opponent. And I think in general this benefits us. But we'll see. They also might be playing around Censor. I don't know. Taking 2. My turn? Okay, well, still not doing anything, and now we get to do that. We're gonna take another 1 damage, because we're still playing around with what our opponent might have. Which literally could be anything. Taking 2. We'll go to 14 here. Cauldron Familiar. Let's Wandering Emperor to gain some life, get rid of the Epicure. Exile that. I'm assuming our opponent's gonna have a Deadly Dispute in response, because that would make sense. Okay. We can just plus the Wandering Emperor, not do anything, and then wait. Oven is... I don't know if I wanna counter it. It's gonna do a lot here, but we can portable hold the oven, and so it might be worthy to wait to save the Dovin's Veto for another time. And here what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna Shark Typhoon for 1. We'll still have 2 mana up in case we want a Dovin's Veto or a Censor, but now it's gonna... You know, we just want to get the sharks out of our hand and draw something else, but if we trade here, it means our opponent's going to need something else, yeah. And that is a fine thing for us to do, for our opponent to Fatal Push that. And now I'm just going to cycle. I'm probably going to cycle them both. I would love a land. An untapped land. Let's portable hole the oven. Hmm. I'm not sure I like that. We could have made a 2-2 with the Wandering Emperor, but that makes the Wandering Emperor go away forever. Right now, if our opponent wants to get rid of her, it has to be attacked with a Hive Tyrant and Cauldron Familiar, and I would love for them to devote those resources for a turn. Our opponent could also just attack us, which I wouldn't love. But I would think is probably correct. So let's cycle to make a 2-2. Another Wandering Emperor would be amazing here. Because we need a way to deal with this hive. And right now we don't. A land, untapped land would be wonderful. Okay. We're doing that because we want to be able to Memory Deluge, so we won't attack. And now we're kind of okay. Teferi is going to go down to 2 loyalty after this attack. Our opponent will exile a card from our graveyard. Thankfully, it's not the Memory Deluge. Still a little... 12 is not a lot of life. It might seem like it, but it's not. Alright, so let's Memory Deluge. Oh, Field of Ruin is beautiful. Because that can deal with the Hive of the Eye Tyrant, and not having to worry about that is wonderful. Now we can be aggressive here. This is the part of the game where, like, it just feels like it's going to be almost impossible to lose. Which I say that knowing now we will lose. But it feels really, really good. Oni, so let's counter that. And GG. Alright, this is kind of fine. We don't have anything early on, which is a little... I would love a Censor or maybe a Portable Hole, but we can get to... If we draw a couple lands, we can have Teferi run away with the game. I don't know what this swamp means our opponent has. Alright, black-red. Okay, so now we just need to draw a land, everyone. I'm sure we'll do that. Alright, absorb. And we drew it. So do I just want to... I want to get rid of this now. I don't know if our opponent's going to be playing Deadly Dispute or something. But I don't hate just getting rid of that now. Maybe I should, but I don't hate it. Oh, an unlicensed hearse. Interesting. I think we need to try and find a land. Okay, and we did. We're gonna make a 2/2 here because plussing just isn't gonna do anything for us. And then next turn we can resolve a Teferi and hopefully have some cool stuff going on there. That's fine. If we draw a land and we get to farewell everything away, that would be absolutely ideal, right? We get rid of the hearse and the fable, and then the following turn we get to Teferi on an empty board. Well, our opponent will have 2 or 3 cards to fill up the board, right? But it's fine. Our opponent's probably thinking if we have the Wandering Emperor and what to do here. So attacking for 5, okay. Beautiful. Alright. This is so good for us. Really good. That could not have been any better. And our opponent agrees. GG. Okay, we kind of have everything going on in this hand in that we don't have any of our end game or good threats, but we have interaction and counter magic, so we just need to draw something good, and I'm sure that will happen, right? It always does. Oh, our opponent is on spirits, it would seem. So we really want to find a supreme verdict pronto. Okay. That's not so bad for us. Specifically because our opponent doesn't have all of those lands, right? So we don't have to worry about drawing cards yet. And that's where the Spectral Sailors become really, really bad for us, is when we have to actively remove them or our opponent will be gaining card advantage. If our opponent doesn't have 4 lands, then it's just like it's whatever. And then we have the Supreme Verdict, which, you know what, we're gonna do now. So we don't have to worry about anything. And then we have Portable Holes and Fateful Absence for 1-on-1 removal. Flip out the back is okay. Love it. Not the biggest fan of this because our opponent, again, drawing cards is really, really good. I would love to Fateful Absence the Faceless Havens because those are much harder for us to deal with. But that's kind of fine. We'll take. This is a lot of damage that we're taking, though. A lot, but we can hole, then absence a land if we need to do that. Hmm. What are you gonna do? Counter it? Okay, good. Oh, March is gonna be really wonderful there. I'm gonna Memory Deluge now because we're probably want a land. Do we want multiple lands? Maybe. Maybe we do. Don't have counter magic, please. Okay, that's it is what it is. But now we have chump blockers galore. Oh, Spectral Sailor. What did I say? That's a really good card. Here. Do you know what? I think we can take 1 damage here from them. I think we can do that. We'll just take it and then we could Supreme Verdict. Huh. Tricky, tricky. Because also we have to be aware of our opponent potentially having more flash creatures. So what we're gonna do here is our opponent. Oh, our opponent. I was like, if our opponent taps out for Spectral Sailor, we can Wandering Emperor it in response, which would be wonderful. So let's Wandering Emperor here now. See what our opponent does. I'm a maybe the Hexproof Spirit here. But we can then Shark Typhoon in response. If that's the case. We can actually also, I think I want to kill the Wanderer, the Mausoleum Wanderer, not the Wandering Emperor. We get to block here. Okay, and it trades. Let's see what we get here. We're still not gonna, I don't think we attack yet. Because we don't want to leave Faceless Haven to kill Teferi for free. Our opponent's in a really rough spot. It's still potentially winnable, but probably not. GG. Well, everyone, thank you for watching me play some games with Blue-White Control and Explorer. This deck is wonderful and 100% up my alley. I'm interested in potentially trying it in best of 3. The thing with going from best of 1 to best of 3 is I think control decks get a lot better because you can then have the point of control decks is to navigating the early game until your late game cards can take control, right? But if your early game cards aren't good against the deck you're facing, like if you have all your creature removal and your opponent isn't playing a lot of creatures early on, your hand is very, very clunky. And so sideboarding really, really helps change the dynamic of those matchups in best of 3. So I'm curious of trying in best of 3, but Supreme Verdict was great here. It really, really feels that much more powerful than Depopulate and Shatter the Sky. Just knowing that on turn 4 you can remove everything no matter what your opponent is doing is just really, really, really powerful. But overall, this deck was great, and I hope you liked it, and I hope you maybe learned something. I could play this deck all the time. I could play most decks all the time. But with all that being said, if you haven't already, you should totally like, comment, or subscribe. You can watch me stream live at twitch.tv/thenerdysteve. And I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening wherever you are. And thanks for watching. Bye.